His baby's screams tore through the mansion like a cry for mercy. For 3 endless nights, nothing could silence the pain. Not doctors, not lullabies, not the billionaire's desperate money. Then she walked in, a black midwife with tired eyes and hands that carried peace. And when she lifted the child to her chest, the impossible happened. The crying stopped, the air shifted, and for the first time, the heartless CEO felt something crack deep inside him, his own soul. Welcome back, my beautiful family. Tonight's story will shake your emotions and touch the deepest corners of your heart. Before we begin, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to leave a like to show some love and help this story reach more beautiful hearts around the world. Now, get comfortable, because this is heartless Korean billionaire CEO's baby cried non-stop until the black midwife breastfed him. The city of Seoul never truly sleeps. Its towers glitter like cold diamonds, hiding stories money can't erase. Inside the highest of them all, Kang Industries' penthouse stands silent, except for one unbearable sound. 3 days. 3 days since his wife's last breath. 3 days since the baby arrived and never stopped crying. They call him a genius, a titan of industry, the youngest billionaire in Korea. But tonight, Junho Kang looks less like a god and more like a ghost. The baby's cries cut through marble and glass. "Turn it off. Please, just turn it off," he snaps, voice shaking. "Sir, it's your son," the housekeeper whispers, afraid. "Then find someone who can," he barks. His anger ricochets through the room. Servants scatter. The baby wails louder, as if daring the man who built skyscrapers to face something he can't control. Hours later, when exhaustion replaces fury, Junho slumps beside the crib. The tiny body thrashes, red-faced and hungry for something no formula or nurse can give. "What do you want from me?" he whispers. Silence answers, only the soft mechanical hum of the city far below. He closes his eyes, hearing his late wife's last breath echo in memory. Somewhere across Seoul, a different night unfolds. Aisha Thompson adjusts a hospital ID badge, bone-tied but resolute. The only black midwife in a foreign country, she has learned to walk through stays and whispers with quiet grace. She finishes helping a young mother, offers a smile, then gathers her worn bag. "Aisha, you're not on call anymore," a nurse reminds. "Go home, rest." She nods, but as she steps into the chilly street, her phone buzzes. An unfamiliar number. A hesitant voice. "Ms. Thompson, we need your help. The Kang baby hasn't stopped crying since birth. Mr. Kang requested someone different." Aisha hesitates. The name Kang means wealth, power, impossible expectations. "I'm off duty," she says softly. "We'll double your rate," the caller pleads. A pause. She hears the faint echo of a baby's cry through the line. Raw, aching, human. Something stays inside her chest, a place she thought she'd sealed long ago. "Text me the address," she whispers. Minutes later, she's in a taxi, city lights streaking by like memories. The driver glances in the mirror. "You look nervous." "First time working for a billionaire," she admits. "They're all the same." He chuckles. Money loud, hearts quiet. The building appears, 48 floors of glass and silence. Guards bow as she enters. Inside, everything gleams. Marble, chrome, emptiness. A woman in black guides her to the nursery door. "He's inside," she murmurs. "Be careful. He's not kind." The door opens. The crying hits her like wind. Junho turns, dark circles under his eyes, jaw set in control that's already breaking. For a heartbeat, they just stare. Two strangers bound by one tiny, screaming soul. "You're the new nurse?" he asks. "Midwife," she corrects quietly. "Aisha Thompson." "Fix it," he orders. No greeting, no warmth, just desperation wrapped in command. She steps closer, ignoring his tone, her gaze softening on the trembling infant. "Is beautiful," she whispers. The baby's fists wave helplessly, face red, lungs roar from endless crying. She hums, low and rhythmic, an old tune from Georgia her grandmother used to sing. The crying stutters, softens, but doesn't stop. She rocks him gently. "Is hungry," she says. I just fed him, Junho retorts. No, she murmurs. Is not hungry for milk. Her words linger in the cold air. Then what? He demands. She looks up, meeting his eyes. Is hungry for comfort, Mr. Kang. For heartbeat, warmth, scent. He misses his mother. His jaw tightens. The words cut too deep. Do your job, he mutters, turning away. My job, she replies softly, is to remind him he's not alone. As she holds the child against her chest, his cries rise again, raw and endless. She closes her eyes, praying silently for strength, for him, for the child, for herself. The narrator's voice returns, calm and deep. Sometimes the richest man in the city lives in the poorest silence. And sometimes, healing arrives not in medicine, but in mercy. The night dragged on until exhaustion blurred the edges of grief. Junho paced the nursery floor, the baby's cries cutting through him like glass. Aisha stayed calm, rocking, humming softly, every motion deliberate, like prayer turned into rhythm. He watched her, half in anger, half in awe. Nothing stopped the crying. She tried formula, warmth, lullabies, even a heartbeat app on her phone. Nothing. The sound became unbearable. It wasn't just a baby. It was loss given a voice. Enough. Junho snapped. He doesn't need songs. He needs control. His words cracked like thunder. But inside, his own control was crumbling. Aisha turned slowly. Control, she said, eyes wet but steady. He needs love, Mr. Kang. Love isn't control. The baby wailed louder, shaking in her arms. The billionaire's jaw locked. He wanted to order her out, to send everyone away, to drown the noise in silence. But he couldn't move. Something about her calm, her trembling hands, rooted him in place. She whispered, Little one, you've cried enough for the whole world. She looked around, no bottles, no warmth left. She bit her lip, breath shallow, then whispered, Forgive me. Gently, she unbuttoned the edge of her blouse and lifted the child to her chest. Time stopped. The crying faltered, then faded to a soft whimper, then nothing. Absolute stillness. Only the faint sound of a heartbeat, haze, filling the room. Junho froze. The world tilted. He'd spent millions on specialists, machines, medicines, yet one act of human tenderness accomplished what none of his power could. For a long moment he simply stared, unable to breathe. The baby's tiny fingers curled against her skin, peaceful, trusting. Tears he hadn't allowed since the funeral, burned behind his eyes. What are you doing? He whispered, voice cracking. Saving him, she said softly, and maybe saving you. He turned away, unable to face the weight of her words. His chest felt heavy, unfamiliar, like the ache of feeling trying to be born again. She kept rocking, whispering to the sleeping child, voice low like a hymn. The lights dimmed, the world quieted, and something shifted in that penthouse, something money could never touch. The narrator's voice returns, steady and warm. Sometimes healing enters not through permission, but through mercy. And sometimes the bravest act isn't spoken, it's felt. Morning crept into the penthouse like an unwelcome truth. The city outside hummed with life while inside, silence finally reigned. The baby slept, his small chest rising and falling in rhythm. Junho stood by the window, hands in his pockets, eyes hollow. Aisha sat nearby, exhaustion pulling at her face, but peace lingering in her eyes. When he finally spoke, his tone was clipped. You overstepped. She looked up slowly. Your son was suffering. You think I didn't notice? He snapped. You had no right. The words stung more than he expected. She said quietly, sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. He turned away. You're dismissed after today. She nodded once, expression unreadable. I understand. But the baby stirred at her voice, soft coos replacing the cries that had haunted these walls. His tiny fingers reached for her. Junho's throat tightened. He won't take the bottle, she said gently. He doesn't trust anyone yet. He'll have to learn, he muttered. People always leave. Her eyes softened. Or maybe people stay when you let them. The sentence hung in the air like smoke. He didn't answer. She returned the baby to his crib, whispering, "Sleep well, little one." He watched her leave, something twisting deep in his chest. That night he sat in the dark nursery alone. The baby began to cry again, louder with every passing minute. He tried to rock him awkwardly, tried to mimic her gentle hum, but the child only screamed harder. Frustration boiled. "Why can't you just stop?" he growled, voice cracking. His reflection in the glass looked like a stranger, an empire in a suit, powerless before a 10-pound child. Hours later, exhausted, he called the agency again. "Send her back," he said softly, "just for the night." When Aisha returned, she found him pacing, eyes red. "He won't stop," he confessed, the words trembling like confession. She took the baby, held him close, and the crying melted away as if by magic. The silence was unbearable this time, because it told the truth. He needed her. The baby needed her. And somewhere inside, the man who called himself Heartless felt the faint pulse of something he hadn't felt in years: humility. She laid the baby in his crib and said, "You can't keep running from what scares you, Mr. Kang." "And what's that?" he asked. "Feeling." She left before he could answer, leaving him alone with the echo of her words. The narrator's voice returned, low and reflective. Even the proudest hearts resist the very thing that could heal them. Because to feel again is to risk breaking again. Rain battered Seoul that evening, heavy and unrelenting, turning the skyline into streaks of silver and shadow. Aisha had just finished her shift when her phone rang again. Mr. Kang's assistant, frantic. "The baby has a fever, and all routes out are flooded. You're the only one close enough." Without hesitation, she returned to the glass tower, umbrellas snapping in the wind, shoes soaked through. When the elevator opened, the penthouse was darker than she'd ever seen it, power flickering from the storm. The baby whimpered in the dim light. Junho hovered helplessly beside the crib. "He's burning up," she said, pressing her palm to the child's forehead. "He needs rest and hydration. I'll stay until he stabilizes." "You can't leave anyway," he murmured, glancing toward the rain-streaked windows. The streets are underwater. The realization hung between them. They were trapped together. Hours passed with only thunder for company. She sat cross-legged on the floor, cradling the baby, whispering old lullabies. He sat across from her, suit jacket gone, sleeves rolled up, watching silently. For the first time, his eyes weren't cold, they were lost. "You sing like you believe every word," he said quietly. "I do," she answered. "My grandmother used to say songs are prayers when words don't work." He nodded slowly, gaze dropping. "I stopped praying when my wife died." "Then start again," she said, voice soft but certain. Lightning flashed, illuminating his face. Grief carved deep, exhaustion deeper still. The baby finally drifted off, small breath steadying. Aisha set him down, exhaled, and leaned back against the wall. Silence filled the room, but it wasn't sharp this time. It was gentle, fragile. He broke it first. "I don't know how to do this," he confessed. "Be a father. Be human again." "Both," he said, almost smiling. "You learn by trying," she replied, "and by forgiving yourself when you fail." He studied her, the warmth in her eyes unsettling. "How did you learn?" A pause, long and heavy. "I didn't," she whispered. "I lost a child once. Stillbirth. I blamed myself until I forgot how to breathe. Helping others was the only way I could keep living." His throat tightened. "I'm sorry," he said, and for the first time, he meant it. "Don't be," she murmured. "Pain makes room for compassion." The lights flickered again. They both looked up, half expecting the darkness to swallow them whole. Instead, a strange peace lingered. He poured tea, set a cup beside her without a word. Steam curled between them. She smiled faintly. "You're capable of kindness, Mr. Kang." "Don't tell anyone," he replied, and they both laughed quietly, surprised by the sound. The baby stirred, and instinctively they leaned over him together, their shoulders brushing. Neither pulled away. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, Something softened, walls cracking, hearts thawing. The narrator's voice rose softly above the thunder. When the world forces two broken souls into the same shelter, sometimes the storm outside is easier to bear than the one within. The next morning, the city gleamed under a washed sky. But inside the penthouse, something had changed. The storm had stripped away more than the night. It had peeled back the armor both of them wore. Aisha brewed coffee in the kitchen, humming softly, while Junho watched her from the doorway, still half in disbelief that a stranger's presence could bring peace to a home that had known only grief. He slept through the night, he said, almost afraid to break the silence. You did that. We did that, she corrected with a smile. He hesitated before asking, You really blame yourself for losing your baby? Her hands froze on the coffee cup. Every day, she whispered. It was years ago, but pain doesn't follow clocks. It just learns to live with you. He nodded, understanding more than he wanted to. For the first time, he let the truth out. Hyminute was sick during her pregnancy, he said quietly. Her doctors warned us. I ignored them. There was a mojo on the line, and I couldn't risk showing weakness. She begged me to slow down, and I didn't. When she went into labor, she didn't make it. His voice broke, and for a moment, he wasn't a billionaire or CEO. He was a man confessing his sin. Aisha's eyes glistened, but she said nothing. Sometimes silence was the gentlest forgiveness. Later that day, while tidying the nursery, she found a small box hidden behind the baby's dresser. Inside were photos, a hospital bracelet, and a letter addressed to Junho, written in delicate handwriting. Her breath caught as she unfolded it. If I don't make it, promise me you'll hold him. Promise me you'll forgive yourself. Love doesn't live in perfection. It lives in presence. Taze blurred the ink. Aisha's chest ached. She understood now why he was drowning in guilt. That evening she found him in his study, staring out at the skyline. You never read her last letter, she said softly. He turned, startled. What? She held it out. She wanted you to know it wasn't your fault. His face hardened. You had no right to go through my things. Maybe not, she said, voice trembling, but you have no right to bury your heart while your son needs it. His fists clenched. You think you understand me? You don't. I understand pain, she replied, and I know running from it won't save you. His anger cracked open into something deeper, grief. I killed her, he whispered, the word tearing free like glass. No, Aisha said, stepping closer. You made a mistake, and you've been punishing yourself ever since. That's not justice, it's cruelty. He stared at her, searching for the lie in her voice, but found only compassion. Why do you care? He asked. Because someone has to, she whispered. For a long moment they stood there, the city glowing behind them, the baby sleeping peacefully in the next room. And in that fragile stillness, something shifted. He didn't apologize, and she didn't forgive, but a bridge had formed, invisible yet real. The narrator's voice flowed softly. Sometimes the past must be uncovered not to reopen wounds, but to let them finally heal. Days passed, and the rhythm of the penthouse changed. Where silence once suffocated, soft sounds of life began to bloom. Tiny laughter, quiet conversation, the faint hum of music in the background. Junho found himself leaving his office earlier, his steps unconsciously guiding him toward the nursery where Aisha often sat on the floor, playing gentle peekaboo with the baby. He stood in the doorway, watching her laugh, her joy unfiltered, radiant in a space that had known nothing but shadows. You're good with him, he said softly. Practice, she replied with a grin. And love. Babies can smell Faye. He chuckled, surprising himself with the sound. She handed him a small rattle. Your turn, Mr. Kang. Awkwardly, he crouched beside his son, shaking the toy. The baby gurgled in delight, reaching for his father's sleeve. Junho's heart tightened, unfamiliar warmth spreading through his chest. He likes you, Aisha whispered. He doesn't know who I am, Junho said, voice low. He knows you're the one who stays, she replied. Later, they sat in the kitchen, sharing tea while the baby slept nearby. Rain whispered against the windows, soft and forgiving this time. "Do you ever miss home?" he asked. "Every day," she said, eyes distant. "But home isn't just a place. It's people who make you feel safe. Sometimes, strangers become that." He nodded slowly. "You make this place less cold." "That's the nicest thing you've said to me," she teased, and they both laughed. The laughter lingered, tender and real. He poured her more tea, careful, almost shy. "You deserve peace too," he said. "You've carried enough sorrow for a lifetime." Her smile faltered, but her voice stayed steady. "Maybe that's why I was sent here, to remind someone else they still have a chance." He looked at her, really looked, and saw not just the woman who had saved his son, but someone who had quietly saved him too. The baby stirred, letting out a soft coo, and both turned instinctively, their shoulders brushing again. No words followed, none were needed. The warmth between them spoke louder than anything they could have said. That night, as they put the baby to sleep, Aisha hummed the same lullaby she had sung on that first night. Junho joined in quietly, his deep voice blending with hers. Two broken melodies finding harmony. When the baby finally drifted into dreams, they stood side by side, gazing down at him, their reflections blurred together in the glass of the crib. Peace never lasts forever. The warmth that had quietly filled the Kang penthouse began to tremble under the weight of the outside world. Word had spread, rumors in boardrooms, whispers in tabloids, murmurs about the billionaire who let a black woman into his private life and his child's care. Junho's assistant arrived one morning, voice tight. "The investors are asking questions, sir. They're calling it unprofessional, intimate." Aisha overheard from the hallway, her heart sinking. Later, when she entered the room, his face was already a mask again, cold, distant, polished for battle. "You should take a few days off," he said flatly. "Why?" she asked, already knowing. "People are talking," he replied. "You think I care what people say?" "I do," he said sharply. "I have to." She stared at him, eyes burning. "You mean your image does?" "My reputation built this company," he snapped. "Without it, everything falls apart." Her voice rose, trembling. "And what about your son? What about the peace we built here? Does that fall apart too because it doesn't look right to them?" His jaw tightened. "This isn't personal." "It never is with you," she said bitterly. The baby began to cry, as if feeling the storm between them. She reached for him, but Junho stopped her. "I'll handle it," he said coldly. "You've done enough." The words cut deep. She stepped back, chest heaving. "You're pushing away the only thing keeping you human." He didn't answer, couldn't. Pride and fear warred in his eyes. "Please," she whispered, tears glistening. "Don't do this to him, or yourself." But the wall was back up, higher than before. "Good night, Ms. Thompson," he said, voice hollow. She turned and walked out, her footsteps echoing through the marble hall like goodbye. The door closed, and silence returned, heavier, lonelier than ever. The baby's cries filled the air, and for the first time, Junho couldn't bring himself to pick him up. He sank to the floor, head in his hands, the sound breaking him piece by piece. Outside, headlines spread. Inside, hearts cracked. The narrator's voice emerged, low and somber. "Love is a fragile rebellion against fear. And when fear wins, it doesn't shatter gently. It destroys everything that dared to feel." The next morning, the city was wrapped in soft rain, the kind that seemed to wash away pride if one let it. Junho stood by the window, watching the droplets race down the glass like tears he couldn't shed. The baby lay restless in his crib, fussing, his small face scrunched in confusion. Aisha hadn't returned. Her absence felt like oxygen missing from the air. The penthouse, once alive with laughter and warmth, had gone cold again, too clean, too silent. He tried to work, to distract himself, but every line of text blurred into the memory of her voice, her touch, her courage. Finally, he snapped his laptop shut and muttered, "Enough." He called the agency. "Where is she?" The answer came quiet and formal. "Ms. Thompson resigned this morning." Something inside him cracked open. He grabbed his coat, ignoring the storm outside, and left. Soul blurred around him. Neon lights, umbrellas, faces, all irrelevant. He found her small apartment near the river, the hallway dim, the sound of rain echoing like fate itself. She opened the door, surprised, cautious. "Mr. Kang." He stood there soaked, breath uneven. "I made a mistake," he said simply. "You made a choice," she corrected. "And it told me exactly where I stand." "No," he said, stepping closer. "It told me what I'm afraid of. I've lived my whole life behind glass, controlling everything, everyone, including myself. But you made me feel again, and it terrified me." Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed firm. "You can't run from fear, Junho. You face it, or you lose everything worth keeping." He swallowed hard. "Then teach me how to face it." For a long moment, the only sound was the rain. Then she sighed, stepped aside, and let him in. The baby stirred in her arms. He had been with her all along, peaceful in her care. Junho's knees nearly buckled at the sight. He approached slowly, voice trembling. "I thought I could protect him by keeping the world out. But I was just keeping love out." Aisha's eyes glistened. "It's not too late to change that." He reached out, touching his son's cheek for the first time without fear. The baby smiled, a small, forgiving miracle. Rainlight shimmered through the window, painting them in silver and hope. Junho whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on us." She shook her head gently. "You did the hard part. You chose to come back." Outside, the storm began to ease, and the world seemed to breathe again. Weeks later, sunlight poured through the penthouse windows like a blessing, warm and alive. The baby giggled in his father's arms, a sound that once felt impossible. Junho held him with ease now, rocking gently while Aisha arranged fresh flowers near the window. The air smelled of jasmine and hope. The cold luxury that once defined the place had softened. Photos now lined the shelves, toys scattered across the rug, music humming quietly in the background. A home, not a monument. "He laughs like his mother," Junho said, smiling faintly. "And like you," Aisha replied. "He learned from the both of us." They shared a quiet glance, full of memories and unspoken gratitude. Later that day, they visited a quiet hillside outside Seoul where cherry blossoms had just begun to bloom. A small grave rested beneath the trees, engraved with the name Hyminate Kang. Junho knelt, setting a white rose beside it. "I thought I'd never forgive myself," he whispered. "But you taught me that love doesn't die, it transforms." The wind stirred gently, carrying the scent of blossoms. Aisha stood behind him, holding the baby close, giving him space to say goodbye. "Thank you," he said softly to the grave, voice trembling. "For him, for her, for the chance to start again." He stood, turning toward Aisha, who smiled through tears. "She'd be proud of you," she said. "No," he whispered. "She'd be grateful for you." They walked down the path together, sunlight flickering between branches, the baby reaching up toward the light. As they reached the car, Aisha looked back once more, whispering a prayer of peace for the woman who came before her, for the man beside her, for the life now cradled in her arms. Back at the penthouse that evening, laughter filled the rooms again. The baby's soft coos echoed through the halls that once knew only sorrow. Junho placed a framed photo of his wife, his son, and Aisha together on the mantel, a symbol not of replacement, but of rebirth. Grief taught him how to break. Love taught him how to heal. And in the quiet between loss and redemption, he discovered what it truly means to live. Time, it turned out, didn't erase, it softened. A year later, the world had changed again. The city kept moving, fast and relentless. But in one quiet apartment overlooking the Han River, the morning light always fell the same way, through soft curtains, across an open sketchbook, and over two coffee cups side by side. Hannah sat by the window, drawing something that wasn't meant for anyone else. No deadlines, no critics, just the kind of art that breathes. Beside her, Ryu was half asleep, tie loose, hair slightly tousled, his hand reaching out in the space between dreams and reality until it found hers. That was how he always woke up, searching for her before the day began. Some days they were loud, laughing until neighbors knocked. Other days they barely spoke, moving around each other in easy silence. They still fought sometimes, about small things, stupid things, but never the kind that ended in distance. Their arguments had edges now, but also hands that reached across them. They'd learned that love wasn't a cue. It was a choice, made again and again, even on the quiet days. Especially on the quiet days. On the anniversary of their island trip, they returned, not as strangers, not as lovers trying to prove something, but as two people who had finally stopped pretending to be perfect. The resort had changed. The lobby was modern now, the walls painted a different color. But the cliffs were the same, and the ocean still roared like it remembered every secret ever whispered to it. They stood there for a long time, wind in their hair, her hand in his, neither needing to speak. "Do you ever think about how it started?" Ryu asked softly. She smiled. "All the time. But I think about how we stayed more." He turned to her, eyes warm, unguarded. "Do you think love always finds a way back?" She tilted her head, thoughtful. "No," she said. "I think love finds the ones who are brave enough to meet it halfway." He nodded slowly, letting her words sink in. Then, almost shyly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a keychain in the shape of a seashell. "For when you forget how far we've come," he said. She took it, tracing its shape with her thumb. "You know," she murmured, "I used to think we were a story that ended too soon." "And now?" he asked. She looked up at him, the ocean reflected in her eyes. "Now I think we were just a story that needed time to learn its own language." The sun dipped lower, turning the water gold. The waves brushed against their feet like a quiet benediction. And as the horizon swallowed the last light of day, Hannah whispered something the wind almost carried away. "We made it." Ryu smiled, not answering, just pulling her close. The moment stretched, soft and infinite, the kind of ending that didn't need words. Because sometimes love doesn't end. It just changes shape. It becomes laughter in the kitchen, coffee on quiet mornings, sketchies on the floor, and fingers finding each other in the dark. It becomes the gentle understanding that maybe, after everything, love was never about forever. It was about now. About choosing, again and again, to stay.